In a dramatic escalation of trade tensions, President Donald Trump has announced significant tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China, igniting a potential trade war among these key trading partners. The tariffs, which are set to take effect on Tuesday, include a 25% levy on goods from Canada and Mexico, along with a 10% tax on Chinese imports. This move comes in response to Trump's assertions regarding illegal immigration and drug trafficking issues that were central to his election campaign. The announcement has elicited swift and robust reactions from the affected countries. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau expressed his disappointment and anger, stating, "We were always there, standing with you, grieving with you, the American people," as he outlined Canada's plans to impose retaliatory tariffs of up to 25% on approximately $155 billion worth of U.S. goods, including alcohol and fruit. Trudeau emphasized that Canada did not desire this confrontation but would not back down in defending its interests. Similarly, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum rejected the U.S. government's accusations of collusion with drug trafficking organizations, labeling them as slander. She announced that Mexico would implement its own tariffs and other countermeasures to protect its economic interests, reaffirming her country's willingness to cooperate with the U.S. on border security and drug trafficking issues. China also swiftly condemned the tariffs, with its Ministry of Foreign Affairs stating it firmly deplores and opposes the U.S. actions and vowed to take necessary countermeasures to defend its rights. China's response is particularly significant as it comes after years of strained trade relations with the U.S., marked by high-profile tariffs and trade barriers initiated by both the Trump and Biden administrations. Economists and industry experts have raised alarms over the potential impacts of these tariffs on the U.S. economy. The imposition of such taxes is expected to increase inflation and raise the cost of living for consumers in all three countries. A study by TD Economics suggests that the average price of cars in the U.S. could rise by approximately $3,000, while the National Home Builders Association warned that housing costs would also be impacted. The levies will have immediate and direct consequences on Canadian and American livelihoods, noted the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Trump's administration has justified these tariffs as necessary to hold Canada, Mexico, and China accountable for their roles in drug trafficking and immigration issues. The White House has indicated that tariffs on Canada will remain until it cooperates on these fronts, with Trump himself stating today's tariff announcement is necessary to hold China, Mexico, and Canada accountable for their promises to halt the flood of poisonous drugs into the United States. This latest round of tariffs may not only exacerbate existing economic challenges but could also lead to a broader fragmentation of global trade relations. Many analysts predict that retaliation from Canada, Mexico, and China could lead to a series of further escalations, putting pressure on U.S. consumers and businesses alike. The potential for a trade war seems imminent, with various industry groups already voicing concerns about the economic ramifications. In the face of these developments, the Trump administration appears prepared to escalate tariffs further should retaliatory measures be implemented by the affected countries. As the situation unfolds, the focus will shift toward how these nations navigate their responses and whether a resolution can be achieved through diplomatic channels. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining the trajectory of U.S. trade policy and its implications for the global economy as tensions rise and uncertainties loom large over the future of international trade relations. In a striking display of political maneuvering, Donald Trump's recent approach to social media platform TikTok has ignited discussions about his broader strategy of creating and resolving crises for political gain. On January 18, 2025, TikTok users in the United States were greeted with a message announcing the app's ban, citing national security concerns due to its Chinese ownership. For many, particularly Gen Z users, this felt like a digital nightmare, prompting conversations filled with disappointment on college campuses like Duke University. However, within hours, a follow-up message declared the app's reinstatement, crediting Trump for his intervention. This rapid turnaround was facilitated by an executive order Trump posted on Truth Social, which deferred the enforcement of the ban while he negotiated a security deal to allow TikTok to operate in the U.S. His announcement included assurances that companies aiding TikTok's continued operation would not face penalties. This abrupt shift not only restored a beloved platform for millions but also highlighted Trump's adeptness at using social media narratives to shape public perception in his favor. While many TikTok users expressed gratitude toward Trump viewing him as a savior, this scenario reveals a deeper, more troubling political tactic. Trump has a long history of crafting crises only to present himself as the solution. The TikTok saga is merely the latest example of this pattern, which can be traced back to the initial executive order to ban the app in 2020, a move he justified on national security grounds. Critics argue that Trump's actions are not rooted in genuine concern for public welfare but are calculated strategies to consolidate his power and influence. This behavior is not isolated to TikTok alone. For instance, during the Biden administration, Trump actively opposed bipartisan immigration reform efforts such as the Border Act introduced in May 2024, opting instead to maintain the narrative of an immigration crisis. Former Vice President Kamala Harris criticized Trump's interference, suggesting he preferred to run on problems rather than address them. Such tactics have led to accusations that Trump is not acting in the best interests of the public but rather crafting a narrative where he remains the indispensable hero. The implications of this strategy are profound. As Trump continues to manipulate the political landscape, the TikTok ban serves as a microcosm of his philosophy. The app's temporary unavailability and subsequent reinstatement reflect a broader trend of manufactured crises that align with Trump's historical modus operandi. This manipulation raises questions about the role of social media in contemporary governance and its influence on public sentiment. As Trump embarks on the next phase of his presidency, the nation must remain vigilant. Recognizing this pattern of political opportunism is crucial for American citizens who seek a government that genuinely serves and protects their interests. The TikTok episode underscores the need for critical engagement with political narratives that may obfuscate the complexities of governance in favor of simplistic self-serving solutions. In the coming years, as Trump continues to navigate and reshape the political landscape, the focus will likely remain on his ability to create crises while positioning himself as the solution. The ramifications of such tactics will not only affect social media users but will reverberate across various sectors of American society, necessitating a cautious and informed public response to his administration's unfolding strategies. In the tumultuous landscape of American politics, President Donald Trump's second week in office has unfolded like a dramatic political thriller, complete with shocking announcements, chaotic policies, and a cocktail of both partisan and national tragedies. As the dust settles, it becomes clear that the new administration is not only retracing familiar paths but also aggressively pushing to reshape the very institutions it is meant to oversee. From the outset, Trump's White House has showcased a flurry of executive orders, initially impressing even critics with its perceived organization and decisiveness. However, the second week quickly devolved into a series of missteps that revived memories of his controversial first term. A particularly chaotic moment arose when the administration issued a directive to freeze federal spending on grants and loans, a move that sparked immediate backlash and legal challenges, culminating in a judge temporarily blocking the order. The subsequent rescission of the memo underscored the administration's struggles to navigate its own directives, compounding the chaos. Trump attempted to politicize the aftermath of a tragic plane crash near Washington, where he baselessly blamed diversity initiatives for the disaster, demonstrating a readiness to intertwine personal political narratives with national tragedies. When pressed by reporters for justification of his claims, Trump retorted, "Because I have common sense." Okay? This incident reflects a broader trend in which Trump frequently identifies diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) efforts as scapegoats for a range of societal issues, revealing a deep-seated skepticism towards initiatives aimed at fostering inclusiveness. As the administration grapples with the fallout of these controversies, it has also initiated a sweeping campaign to overhaul the federal workforce and reshape its institutions. Notably, Trump has moved to purge officials involved in prosecuting those charged in connection with the January 6 Capitol riot, signaling a broader intent to align the Justice Department and FBI with his political agenda. This includes the controversial pardon of nearly all individuals charged in the riot, a move intended to assert control over the narrative surrounding the events of that day. Yet perhaps the administration's most audacious attempt at restructuring has been the introduction of a fork-in-the-road email sent to millions of federal employees offering them a buyout in exchange for resignation. This unprecedented approach, reminiscent of tactics employed by Trump ally Elon Musk at Twitter, raises significant legal and ethical questions, particularly regarding its impact on essential government functions. With a hiring freeze already in place, the administration's moves signal a broader strategy aimed at dismantling what Trump terms the deep state, yet they risk destabilizing vital services relied upon by millions of Americans. Amidst these domestic upheavals, Trump has reignited trade tensions by imposing tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, claiming they are necessary to combat illicit drug smuggling and illegal immigration. This has prompted swift retaliatory measures from both nations, further estranging key allies and raising fears of a protracted trade war. Analysts warn that these tariffs could cost American households up to $1,200 annually in lost purchasing power, complicating Trump's stated objective of alleviating inflation. As the second week of Trump's presidency draws to a close, it is evident that the administration's approach embodies a blend of familiar tactics and new confrontations. The chaotic start suggests a government struggling to maintain coherence while pursuing a radical agenda aimed at remaking Washington. In this environment, the question remains whether Trump can effectively govern while simultaneously pushing an agenda that alienates both allies and constituents. Looking ahead, as the administration grapples with internal and external pressures, the implications of its policies will continue to unfold. With mounting controversies and an increasingly polarized political landscape, the coming weeks will likely reveal whether Trump's strategy will yield lasting change or further exacerbate divisions within the fabric of American governance. As the nation watches, the stakes are higher than ever and the outcomes uncertain. In a dramatic escalation of trade tensions, President Donald Trump has announced sweeping tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China, igniting fears of a new trade war among North American allies. The tariffs, which include a 25% levy on goods from Canada and Mexico and a 10% tax on Chinese imports, are touted by Trump as necessary measures to combat illegal immigration and drug trafficking, particularly the opioid crisis exacerbated by fentanyl smuggling. The swift backlash from Canada and Mexico was immediate, with both countries pledging to impose retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau voiced his disappointment, describing the move as a betrayal of the close ties that have historically bound the nations. He highlighted that Canadian troops have stood alongside American forces in various conflicts, reinforcing the notion of solidarity that now feels threatened by these tariffs. Trudeau announced a matching 25% tariff on approximately $155 billion worth of U.S. imports, including alcohol and agricultural products, emphasizing that we will not back down in standing up for Canadians. Mexico's response was equally assertive, with President Claudia Sheinbaum rejecting the accusations of complicity with drug traffickers, labeling them as slanderous. She instructed her economy minister to develop a plan for retaliatory measures, which may include imposing tariffs on U.S. goods such as pork and dairy products, particularly from states that supported Trump in the recent elections. As the tariffs loom with an implementation date set for Tuesday, economists warn of significant repercussions for both the U.S. and global economies. The Yale Budget Lab estimates that the average American household could face an income loss equivalent to $1,170 due to the tariffs, which threaten to exacerbate inflation and disrupt supply chains. Industries heavily reliant on cross-border trade, particularly automotive and agriculture, are bracing for increased costs that could ripple through to consumers. The White House, in its defense of the tariffs, cited a national emergency stemming from drug-related issues and illegal immigration. Trump's administration has argued that these tariffs are meant to hold Canada, Mexico, and China accountable for their perceived failures in addressing these problems. Today's tariff announcement is necessary to hold China, Mexico, and Canada accountable for their promises to halt the flood of poisonous drugs into the United States, the White House stated. Critics, however, argue that this approach undermines the economic collaboration fostered under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement USMCA and could lead to less favorable trading conditions for U.S. manufacturers. Observers note that while the tariffs aim to bolster domestic production, they may inadvertently make it cheaper for U.S. companies to source goods from China than from neighboring Mexico, which runs counter to Trump's stated objectives. The potential for an ongoing tit-for-tat escalates the stakes, with experts predicting that the tariffs could lead to broader economic fallout, including higher prices on everyday goods such as cars, food, and consumer products. The interconnectedness of the North American supply chain, especially in the automotive sector, raises concerns that U.S. manufacturing could take a hit, impacting job growth and economic stability. As the situation develops, all eyes will be on how these tariffs affect diplomatic relations, trade negotiations, and economic conditions across the continent. The implications extend beyond immediate trade considerations, signaling a shift in U.S. trade policy that intertwines economic policy with national security. Analysts suggest that if Trump perceives a lack of cooperation from his trading partners, he may escalate tariffs further, leading to a protracted economic conflict. Looking ahead, the responses from Canada and Mexico will be crucial in shaping the future of trade relations within North America. The potential for successful negotiations or further escalation remains uncertain, but it is clear that Trump's tariffs have set a new course for U.S. trade policy, one that prioritizes national security concerns over established economic alliances. In a bold and controversial move reminiscent of his previous administration, President Donald Trump has reintroduced significant tariffs on key trading partners, namely Canada, Mexico, and China. Signed into effect via a series of executive orders, the tariffs, 25% on imports from Canada and Mexico and 10% on Chinese goods, have ignited a firestorm of reactions from both political leaders and economic experts, raising questions about their implications for international trade and domestic economies. The rationale behind these tariffs, as outlined by the White House, is rooted in national security concerns and the ongoing issues of illegal migration and drug trafficking. The administration has accused the Mexican government of complicity with drug cartels, asserting that these tariffs are necessary to safeguard U.S. interests. Mexican drug trafficking organizations have an intolerable alliance with the government of Mexico, the White House stated, a claim that Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum vehemently rejected, emphasizing Mexico's commitment to collaboration rather than confrontation with its northern neighbor. In response to the tariffs, both Trudeau and Sheinbaum wasted no time in articulating their country's countermeasures. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced his government's intent to impose 25% tariffs on $155 billion worth of U.S. goods, with an initial $30 billion worth taking effect immediately. He urged Canadians to support local products, advocating a shift toward domestically produced goods. "We will get through this challenge," Trudeau reassured his constituents. Similarly, Sheinbaum activated Plan B, which includes a mix of retaliatory and non-tariff measures to protect Mexico's economic interests. She offered a clarion call for cooperation, stating Mexico does not want confrontation with the U.S., and proposed a joint working group to address mutual concerns regarding drug trafficking and public safety. The potential economic fallout from these tariffs is significant. Experts from various economic think tanks have analyzed the anticipated impacts, projecting negative repercussions for both the U.S. and its trading partners. According to the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, Trudeau's retaliatory tariffs could shrink Canada's GDP by approximately 2.6%, while also inflicting a 1.6% reduction on the U.S. GDP, amounting to about $467 billion in lost economic activity. The interconnectedness of the North American economy complicates the situation further, as many U.S. manufacturers rely heavily on Canadian and Mexican suppliers. Critics of Trump's tariffs argue that the measures could ultimately undermine the economic benefits derived from the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement USMCA, which was designed to enhance trade cooperation in the region. The tariffs will quickly erode the economic growth and improvements in supply chain security, cautioned Maria Fernanda Bosmosky, highlighting that the move may inadvertently drive U.S. manufacturers to source from China rather than Mexico, counteracting the intended objectives of the tariffs. While the immediate reactions from Canada and Mexico are clear, the broader implications of these tariffs extend into the realm of global trade policy. By invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a legal maneuver allowing for swift action against perceived threats, Trump's administration has set a precedent that could reshape U.S. trade relations. This raises concerns among economic experts that future tariffs could be enacted for reasons beyond traditional trade disputes, including social and political issues. As the situation unfolds, observers will be keenly watching how these tariffs affect the dynamics of U.S.-China relations, particularly as Beijing may find itself in a favorable position, enjoying lower tariff rates compared to its North American allies. Economic strategists will also be monitoring the potential for currency adjustments and the broader impacts on global supply chains, particularly in the energy sector, where pricing and availability could be significantly affected. With tensions escalating and trade relations hanging in the balance, it remains to be seen how Canada and Mexico will navigate this challenging landscape in the coming weeks. The potential for further escalation looms large, and as both nations prepare their responses, the global community is left to ponder the future of U.S. trade policy and its far-reaching consequences. In a world increasingly defined by geopolitical tensions and shifting alliances, the latest developments in Middle Eastern diplomacy indicate a complex interplay of power strategy and the ever-present hope for peace. As Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu prepares for a pivotal meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, the focus is not only on the immediate concerns of security and regional stability but also on the broader implications of their partnership. Netanyahu's departure for Washington on Sunday morning marks a significant moment, as this meeting will be Trump's first with a foreign leader in his second term. Describing the encounter as very important, Netanyahu emphasized the strength of the Israeli-American alliance, highlighting their personal friendship as a cornerstone of their diplomatic efforts. "I believe that we can strengthen security, broaden the circle of peace, and achieve a remarkable era of peace through strength," he asserted, underscoring the strategic goals that underpin the discussions. During this meeting, the agenda is expected to cover critical issues, including Israel's ongoing struggle against Hamas and the broader Iranian threat, which Netanyahu claims endangers not only Israel but also the entire Middle East. "The decisions we made in the war have already changed the face of the Middle East," he stated, reflecting on the impact of recent military actions and the resolve of Israeli forces. The Prime Minister's rhetoric indicates a clear intention to leverage the meeting to further solidify Israel's position and explore new avenues for peace agreements, building on the success of the Abraham Accords, which saw normalization deals with several Arab nations. In parallel, the political landscape in the U.S. is also undergoing significant transformations. Former British Minister Peter Mandelson has recently made headlines with his unexpected change of heart regarding Trump. Once a vocal critic labeling Trump as a danger to the world, Mandelson now acknowledges the need for a diplomatic reassessment in light of his new role as British ambassador to the United States. His sentiments reflect a broader trend among politicians who have recalibrated their stances in response to the evolving political climate. As Mandelson pointedly remarked, "When the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do?" This shift illustrates a recognition that adaptability in diplomacy can sometimes supersede previous convictions. Simultaneously, talks around the release of hostages and the potential for ending Hamas rule are gaining momentum, hinting at a possible phase 2 in negotiations that could reshape the future of Gaza and its governance. The implications of these discussions are profound, as they not only address immediate humanitarian concerns but also the long-term stability of the region. As the world watches these developments unfold, the interplay between military strategy, diplomatic engagement, And the quest for peace remains a delicate balance. The upcoming meeting between Netanyahu and Trump is poised to be a defining moment in the current geopolitical landscape, potentially setting the stage for new alliances and a redefined approach to the Middle East. With both leaders appearing committed to a vision of peace through strength, the outcomes of their discussions could resonate far beyond the confines of their respective nations. Looking ahead, the impact of these diplomatic maneuvers will undoubtedly shape not only the future of Israel and its neighbors but also the broader international community's approach to conflict resolution and alliance building. As tensions continue to simmer, the stakes have never been higher, and the quest for stability in the region will require both courage and pragmatism from all parties involved.